Welcome, everybody. I'm excited to have you all here. We're all really glad to have you all join us for this week's foundation session, Dipping a Toe into Content Creation. So the Foundations is a professional development. Oh, right, I forgot. We have a tech intro. Let me back up. We just added this. So just to make sure everybody feels good and comfortable with Zoom. I know people are using Google Meets and people are using Microsoft other thing that they have. So just to give you a few quick pointers, we'll invite you, as we already did, to add messages to the chat. We will also invite you throughout if you have comments or questions to pop those in the chat. Daniela may address them throughout, but particularly at the end, we'll have some time for Q&A, so we can collect them there. If you want to change your view, you have some options up at the top. And we also love reactions as a way to stay engaged in this virtual space. And then if you want to come off camera or off mute, on or off mute or camera, then you can also do that. So just a few quick pointers. This foundation series is a professional development series for the entrepreneur, bridging the gap between technical and soft skills that we need in leadership. And our goal is really to prove that there is another way to build big ideas, one that prioritizes community over competition and values alignment over just that empty hustle that can come out, particularly in the digital marketing space. This series is brought to you by my team and by me here at The Nest. We are a cultural strategy project using design, events, and marketing to connect powerful communities with the important projects and social movements that are being built around us. And quick shout out for the members of our team. So on the call today is Lauren Tedef, who is our public programs manager and has helped me to put the series together and does all the back end work to get it up and running. And we also have our newest member of our team, Daniela Ramirez, who will also be our speaker. So we'll hear more from her later. But I mostly like to be able to point out some of the members of our team because it's a very collective, collaborative effort. And Foundations is a part of our public programs. And our public programs are one of the ways that as a small business, we are working to step into our values of connection, care, and collaboration, and really putting some of our own resources back into this collective community of folks who are trying to do good work in the world. And with all that, I can move into a little bit more about who we are. So I'm Lee Robbie Gaiman Jones. I'm the CEO and founder of The Nest and also the chief creative officer of Woven Studios, our design and events agency. And I have really been able to see the connection or the value of content creation over and over through my work at The Nest. So I'm particularly excited about today's workshop with Daniela. I know there's a lot of real power in developing that content that is in a deeply strategic way. So I think that I know we're going to get some valuable information from Daniela through the session. And after this presentation, after she presents, we'll have, like I said, more room for Q&A. So feel free to drop your comments, chats, questions, reactions in the chat. And we'll return to those then. But for now, I will pass it to you, Daniela, to take us forward.
Awesome. Thanks, Lee. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with you all talking about one of my favorite things, content creation, with some of my new favorite people. As Lee mentioned, I'm excited to be a new member of the team at The Nest. Just to share a little bit about me, I'm currently a freelance communications consultant and content creator. Prior to that, though, I was most recently at Spitfire, which is a social justice communications firm, doing everything from crisis comms to social media to narrative and messaging work. And prior to that, I spent most of my career in the nonprofit space focused on gender equality, most recently at Planned Parenthood. I'd love to hear from folks in the chat where you all work, what world you are coming from. I think just given some of the places where this was promoted, I'm offering insights both from people in social justice movement space, but also if you just are an entrepreneur with your own brand, business, or product or service. So I'm trying to straddle both as we go. All right. So today we are going to dig into content creation, particularly around what it means to build a personal brand and how that connects to your strategy, for your overall communication strategy, whether you be building a business, building a movement, or representing an organization or institution. So some key takeaways I hope you all will walk away with is an understanding of how content fits into your overall communication strategy, some tips for starting to identify what your content message is, as well as your content pillars, as well as some ways to understand and connect with your audience. And then we'll do some really beginner level how to start in terms of telling a basic storytelling structure arc and ways to play around with super easy formats for beginners. Okay, so why content? I mean, if you're all here, it means you already have somewhat of an understanding and interest, but I did want to take a big step back and share some of the three main reasons why I think content is essential to communication strategy. So the first one is audience. We all know that a communication strategy is only as effective as it is if you can reach your audience and move them to the action that you want them to take, whether that be to join your movement, buy your product, be engaged with your brand. So there's just some recent data here about where young people are. It's not new information to say that young people can be found online, but as far as getting news, most of them, 39% actually say that they get news from news influencers. I'm not necessarily suggesting people become news content creators here, but just to give you a sense of how much they are online and how much they trust social media resources with news. As well as this stat, which I thought was even more interesting, which is that they actually aren't going looking for it. They happen to come across it. And that is our biggest opportunity on social media. It is the best platform where you can sort of engineer a way to naturally come across your audience without it necessarily having to be paid and without them having to seek you out. So, the second reason why I feel super strongly about content being a part of your communication strategy is that this whole group of people that just kind of happen to come across people that they trust enough to get the news from is because of the algorithm, the way they are just able to come across your content naturally. And the biggest thing that will get someone to follow you and engage with your content further is trust. So people trust people way more than they trust institutions or organizations or even brands. So if you look at this graphic on the right, it's from the Edelman Trust Barometer, which is like the biggest study. It's a report they put out every year on trust metrics. And you'll see that people trust their peers as much as scientists. And if you look more closely, that goes before businesses and even NGOs, if there are any movement folks in the group. So, sorry about that. So it's important to engage with people on a human level because people trust people. The other thing that I wanted to share was this most powerful politics influencers barely post about politics. When it comes to engaging audiences that are already online and shifting their mindset or getting them to take an action that you want them to take, whether that may be political in nature or not, they are more likely to follow and engage and trust people who they relate to than someone who is wearing like an official organizational hat or officially sharing is in the camp of being like a news influencer or a politics influencer. And that's data has shown that as much as we've seen, social media emerging as a news source in the manosphere and how it's swinging people to the right, these are people who people follow for cultural reasons and because they relate to them and trust to them. They aren't going to them for this sort of like capital P political information. And lastly, why I think content is super important for any communications strategy is that it is, at least for now, AI proof, and you can't really afford to ignore it. Obviously, AI is throwing off a lot of how we normally communicate, but evidence still shows this article you'll see is a few years old, which is can be ages in terms of AI. There's still evidence to suggest that a personal brand will sustain and much more than an institutional one. And so you'll see here on this established Edelman chart that for people who already have trust with influencers, it can sway their trust in a brand or organization. So just further proving that people trust people. And the best way to become a person that people trust is to build a personal brand through content creation. Okay, so if we know that people trust people more than brands, more than businesses, more than organizations, and you have a business, a brand, or a movement or cause you are marketing to people or driving forward, you can develop a personal brand that builds trust, which is oh, I'm so sorry. My screen just blanked out. But anyway, you have a lot to say in order to build trust, but you have an expertise to share. You have a point of view with your unique values. You have stories, lots of them, in fact, way more than you may think. And you have passions that showcase your values. So there might be this why would I be a content creator approach, and also this idea of it being super vulnerable and cringy and difficult to get over that hump. And I'm not going to lie to you, it does require a certain level of vulnerability. But what we are seeing in terms of the shift in trust away from a traditional media landscape is that people trust people, and that in order to build trust, they actually need to feel that they're relatable to you, that you are being vulnerable and honest and authentic, and that they find a way to connect. Okay, so a lot of that was the why for content. Again, it's where your audience is, it's where trust is moving, and it's really not a space we can afford to no longer engage in if we are trying to market a business or market a movement. But what we haven't talked about is what content is. And the good news is that most of you already know what content is because most of us are now consumers of content. So there is a pretty specific formula. Even though I'm sure we've all seen and engaged with different types of content, they all, at the end of the day, to some extent, follow this formula. So it starts with a hook, and the hook is the reason you yourself stop scrolling. If any of you spend time on your phone and get caught up scrolling, there's a reason why certain videos stop you more than others. There are different kinds of hooks. There are visual hooks, there's text hooks, which whatever is the text that someone puts on their screen as they start. And then there's the verbal hook of how someone starts a video. Some people use all three, some people only use one. They can feel gimmicky, but it doesn't have to be. And there are a lot of different hooks and hooks templates that have proven to work, meaning examples of powerful hooks that kind of stand the test of time, and can be applied to a wide range of stories that we can share with you after. And then, oh, sorry, Lauren. If you could go back. Thank you. Then we're going to talk a little bit about how to get to your content creator message and identify what it is at the end of the day that you are saying, and that will bring people back to you and encourage people to actually follow you and be curious about your story, and therefore further curious about your brand, your movement, your organization. And we're going to go over a sort of step-by-step formula on how to find and identify what your message is. Then there's, of course, a format. Um, since I'm mostly talking about Instagram and TikTok today, but a lot of the strategy around finding your messaging and understanding your audiences is applicable across all platforms. But in terms of format, they are not a written format. So there are a bunch of different video formats that you can choose and engage with, or static formats, which we'll go over some of them. Carousels, which I'm sure many of you know, are photo images in a slide where you can put text on screen as a storytelling tool, actually are having a resurgence and are performing quite well. But if any of you consume content, you've seen different types of content already. There are talking heads where someone just grabs the camera and talks into it as if you're speaking to them on FaceTime. There's short B-roll with text over it and maybe a trending sound or music. There's a vlog, a POV, which is basically you seeing through their eyeballs through a day. Um, and there's all sorts of other kinds, and we're going to go through the easiest ones to start as you're starting to dip your toe into it. So all of that together, the hook that brings someone in and stops them from scrolling, what you know to be your message and the purpose of the explicit piece of content that you're trying to create, the format is what all comes together to create content, and more broadly, what will help you build the framework to build your personal brand. Okay, so this presentation is not about content for content's sake. It's not necessarily a one-on-one on how to become a content creator. It is intended to connect to whatever your current communication strategy is. So, for each of you, if you are from a brand, marketing your own business, or again, trying to move people and mobilize people to join your or engage more deeply in your movement, we need to start, like all good strategy starts with your goal. Are you selling a product, service? Are you trying to recruit people to your program in a more social justice political space? Are you trying to get people to take an action, sign a petition, call an elected member of Congress? Or are you shifting a narrative or a norm? This is an essential part of sort of finding your voice and story. Obviously, there's a lot of people out there talking about similar things. There's a whole debate within content creation on whether or not niching down is a smart strategy, meaning choosing explicitly what niche you're going to be in. I'm going to be a food blogger or a lifestyle blogger or a fitness influencer versus just building a personal brand that's built around every aspect of who you are as a person and then can eventually ladder back up to your brand or business or movement. Do you have an outcome you want your audience to experience? Meaning, if you're more coming from a place of wanting to make the world a better place, or you have a strong opinion or strong expertise, and you want something to share, some lessons learned that you've acquired over the years that have changed your life for the better, that you really want your audience to also share and experience, that is also another area to sort of archive and unearth your potential creator message. And then, do you want to share what lights you up? We all have different passions. And if you're coming more, these are all sort of different entry points for content creation of what would be your why before you even begin to create content. Okay. So here we're breaking that down a step further, and we're actually going to like reverse engineer this a bit. There's a lot of debate around content pillars, and what you'll hear sometimes people say that content pillars are dead. Um, for the frame of this conversation, what I would encourage you all to do is to consider content creation from a place of building and developing a personal brand rather than a branded account. So, meaning if you are an entrepreneur that has a business and you have a business account, which these days you have to have because it helps credentialize and legitimize you as a business, could you consider also developing a personal brand that helps connect to your brand and business, but also shines light into you as a person so that you can build trust, grow your audience, and then once that trust is built, bring them in to encourage them to engage in your business, brand, or movement. That is the formula, just taking a big step back that we are working from here. And I would just ask if you guys are all actively on social media, how many brand accounts you follow versus actual people. And many of you who work in social media and digital marketing maybe do follow a fair amount of brands or, you know, have a lot of clients that you have to follow and engage in, or they're sort of competitors to see what the field is doing and how it's moving. But as a person in your personal time who you scroll through and enjoy the content that you enjoy, are they more often a person than they are a brand? And based on the data that I shared at the beginning, more often than not, that is the case for people. So that is the case for building your personal brand. Your goal for building a personal brand might be quite different. Are you selling something? Are you just excited about this idea of content creation and want to share your thinking and what you've learned? Do you have a side project you're super passionate about and just want to start building content around? Or have you had some life-changing or life lessons that you want to share to make the world or your audience have a better life or the world to be a better place? So from that place, if you know what your goal is, and you understand that you want to start creating content, it can be overwhelming to know where to start from a messaging perspective. So these four core pillars are the pillars for anyone building a personal brand. They will be different per person. All of yours would be different, but they each hit these four different corners of your life. And that is strategic in that it is designed to engage and bring in your audience. And also, eventually, if you are trying to get someone to buy into something, whether it be a physical product or service, or to join a movement or take an action that you want them to take. These are the four best practices and tried and true that will build the trust that you need to do that. So, firstly, is your skill. And this is the one you will actually lead with the least at first if you are the just beginning in content creation. This helps you showcase your expertise and to help build trust and secure you as an authority in people's minds before they would even consider selling. They need to get value, either some sort of education, entertainment, or enlightenment from you to hit follow, and helping create content that positions you as an authority will help you do that. The second pillar is around your mindset. And the easiest way I can help identify that for you all is to think about if there is a norm or narrative that you are hoping to shift. Again, connecting back to your goals. And if your overall goal is to market your business, there are still ways I would encourage you to think about all of these questions, taking a step back from your business. What is the value underlying or the feeling or the principle or belief that you are trying to sell or bring people onto underneath your business or product or movement? And then think about that value and how it connects to different areas of your personal life. And that will help you identify what your content pillars are in a more specific way than these general categories. But for mindset, norm or narrative, um, often the thing that will bring people in and kind of help you find your people and grow an audience is having a contrarian point of view or a bold point of view or saying the quiet part out loud, as some people say. What is the norm you're trying to shift? And if it's a more cultural narrative, what is the narrative that you're trying to shift? And how can you show people to think like you without explicitly telling them to think like you? The third is your lifestyle, and this is more where it would go into the audience outcome that you hope for them. So any sort of lessons learned, how do you live your life in the day to day to get the outcome that you want? How have you gotten to the point where you built the life that you want? And how can you demonstrate that by showcasing your lifestyle as a sort of proof and permission for people who follow you that what you have done is possible for them as well? And then lastly, there's this passion pillar, which is sharing what lights you up. And this is the place where you can share things you care about and how they connect to your values. I'm going to go through an example because I know it's all kind of up here right now. And it's hard to talk about content without showing content. So we'll get there in a minute. Okay, so once you know your goal and you have a sense of your content pillars by going through some of these questions, what's your skill? What's your mindset? What's your lifestyle? What's your passion? You need to think about your audience. So you have to think about the millions of people who are scrolling on their phone every day and paint the clearest picture of who you want your audience to be. And if you are a brand marketing a service or a product, you've likely already thought about that and developed what people call an avatar or your customer persona. And think about who that ideal person is if you're more in the movement camp, who your ideal supporter is, who you need to move to vote a certain way or take a certain action. What are you asking them to do? what outcome do you want for them, which we already talked about. And just to say, if you are explicitly selling something, we need to talk about the outcome that we hope for our audience, the feeling that they would have once they experienced your product or service, rather than going directly in with a hard sell. And there are two ways to do this further, if you haven't developed your own audience avatar so far. And one is through demographics, and the other is psychographics. So, to be more explicit about what those mean, their demographics are age, gender, location, occupation, just the standard of what you consider demographics. And then psychographics are a bit more nuanced and actually the most important part to understand to bring people in to want to follow you and engage with your content. And that is identifying their pain points and their desires. So, building a sort of archetype character of who this person is really helpful. So, for example, for me, I'm 39, I've never been married, I'm child free, I'm going through a big pivot in my career. And so, my audience is women 35 to 45, likely professional, potentially considering leaving a 9 to 5. I've only ever lived in New York and LA, so maybe more major city based. And some of their pain points are, feeling like they've lost community because all of their friends have gotten married and had kids and settled down and left the city that they live in, or feeling like their accomplishments aren't celebrated as much as other women who get the wedding and the wedding shower and the baby shower, or feeling like it's too late to have the things they want if they still are interested in pursuing marriage and having children. These are like the psychographic layer of your audience, that's a bit more deeper and detailed. And the one tool that I have here is a TikTok tool, actually. If you don't use TikTok actively, for a lot of reasons, there still is, I think this is the freest and the best, freest tool that I have seen. If you go into TikTok, you don't have to have a creator account to start. And you can actually just search in the search bar, creator search insights, and it'll bring you to the page. If you post content there, it helps because they'll know a little bit more about your content and who your audience is and what you're trying to say. And so it'll automatically give you things that make sense. You'll see some of those there aligned for mine and what I was just talking about. But if not, you can search through it once you know a little bit more about your own content pillars and your business and a little bit more about your audience. You can take a look and see what people are searching for and what is going up in trends so that you can try to lean into that in your content to get the visibility that you need to grow a following. Okay, so once you have your goal, your content pillars, and your audience down, you can begin to reverse engineer a message. And once you have a top line message, again, especially if you're marketing a business, your top line message has to appeal to your audience that aligns with the same audience that you're trying to target for your business. And then what is the value or emotion underneath the product, service, or movement that you're selling? That you could talk about in a way that applies to your personal life so that you're not spending all of your content just talking about something that you're selling, because that will break trust and people want to get to know you by feeling your authenticity, vulnerability. That's what builds a personal brand and that's what builds a following. So having your message helps you be like, I really like mini golf. Like, should I post about that? If that has nothing to do with your message, maybe not. Or you could try it and see how it performs with your audience. Or you could find an entry point to why you're talking about it that does connect to your audience. But having that message sort of in your mind at all times as you go through your life, documenting your life, which is the best and easiest way to build content, which we will get into a little bit, helps become a decision filter for, does this make sense for me to post? Is this something that my avatar, my customer persona will care about and engage with? And if it doesn't, it might be something that you want to put off to the side or share in a different way, because it might go into the territory of being what we would call off-brand. Okay, so we have an example that's kind of going to carry us through the next few slides that I hope will help crystallize some of what we've been talking about. I have intentionally chosen someone who is not deep in the social justice space and is not deeply selling or marketing a brand. Because I find when we use examples that are too close to what we're doing, we can get caught up in the weeds of like their framing and their messaging and what is their product and would I use this product? When really what we're trying to get to click in your brains is the strategy behind it. So this person, her name is Jessie Jean. I think her handle is Jessie Jean Home. I started following her. She had a piece of content that went viral that will show that maybe some of you have seen. But she also shares content tips. But part of why she came across my page and how I connected to her was through her very intentional choice and design of her content pillars, and the way she has formatted her storytelling to match formats that work for her, which we'll also go through each pillar. And how she's done so, I think, with creating a strong, personal, recognizable brand without being overly personal. Like, I don't, especially if you're just trying to start content creation to market a business, I could understand not wanting to share the intimate details of your personal life, but there is a way to be personal and vulnerable without having to do that. So her first pillar is around her skill. And this is again, eventually what you would sell or where you point people to what you are selling through your business. Currently, she sells a furniture flipping guide, which is very random. Like, I followed her for content tips. She happens to do furniture flipping as her side hustle. She sells a little guide about it. And then at this point, her following has grown so much that I'm sure she has monetized her platform. Pillar two is around her mindset. So, again, what norm or narrative is she shifting? And she's talked a lot about career crisis for millennials and how millennials were sold this dream to commit to a job, work in one business your whole career, and it'll pay off. And perhaps something that maybe was more realistic for the generation of our parents, and how it was proven to not be true for us over and over again. And why she kind of coined or expanded upon the term of like, this great millennial career crisis. Three, and she's experiencing it herself and pivoting in her career. So that's more of the like personal, vulnerable positioning. Her lifestyle, she does this a lot through examples, like as I was saying, show, don't tell. She shares a lot of money transparency, conversations around her and her husband, what her finances have been since she's pivoted her career. And then she also shares content tips because she is like actively bringing us through the journey of her becoming a content creator. And so she is giving back to us and showing what she thinks is working so that we can learn alongside her. And then lastly, her passion. Apart from all of that, she also talks a lot about tech and AI. She's raising a kid who's Gen Alpha. Her husband works in AI, and they talk a lot about how it's going to impact the next generation and their parenting styles. And then she also randomly, her side hustle happens to be furniture flipping. So you could think about all of these, and I chose her intentionally because these are quite different things that kind of feel all over the place. And that as dynamic people, we all have different parts of our personality that we can share in a strategic way that will build trust, grow an audience that you can eventually sell to. She's selling her furniture flipping guide to people who came into her that way. If she sold a tool or resource on pivoting in your career, as I'm experiencing right now, I would probably buy it. Or if she sold some tools around content creation as I start out in content creation, I would also probably buy it. So there is a direct line from building this dynamic personal brand to showing or promoting or marketing a business. I don't know her. I don't know her strategy. I haven't seen her strategy documents behind the scenes, but by digesting and analyzing her content, I have a sense of who her audience is, and also because I'm a part of it. So she's definitely speaking to millennials. Her audience is definitely mostly women. She's based in Colorado, but she does seem to straddle both of that sort of more rural, active outside lifestyle with like a city-based person. And she's definitely talking to people who are in a corporate 9 to 5 setting who are looking to make a career pivot. And obviously, some of the pain points that come along with that are career confusion, feeling stuck. A separate pillar for her is parenting Gen Alpha regarding AI, so parents to fellow Gen Alpha kids. And then people who are building their income streams and looking for side hustles and ultimately trying to find financial freedom. And so, looking through her content and being one of her members of her audience and also being a communications professional and thinking about the strategy, again, I don't know her, haven't had a conversation with her about her message. But one thing that carries through all of her messaging that I can tell is the filter through which she decides how to post is this idea that you can pivot your career at any point in your life, and that content and side hustles can make it possible for you. And the content for her is has become a big thing that she's monetized in terms of income, as well as her side hustle in furniture flipping. Her money conversations, she's talking about the income streams that came from those things, the income that's shifting based on her career pivot, which is her overarching message. And the furniture flipping is also part of her career pivot. So there is a simple formula for how to tell a story. All human beings are hardwired for stories. As communications people, we know that. As marketers, we know that. And there is a simple formula. It doesn't have to be every post, but can help start. And this is this pain pursuit payoff. What is the problem that you're starting with? And again, it doesn't have to be wildly personal or vulnerable or, you know, violating any sense of boundary that you have to share publicly. But what is a pain point that you're struggling with at this time? Show us or talk to us about you pursuing a solution and then show us the solution. Okay, so if we think back to the content pillars I've shared, I've thought about which format is an easy way to start for each of them. So again, there's skill, norm or narrative, audience outcome, and what lights you up. And in each of the next slides, there's a quick example, and then we'll open it up for questions. Okay, so skill. So in terms of the messaging, a really easy way to share is like a step-by-step how-to. It helps credentialize you and show your journey, and it also can offer a call to action for your audience. Call to actions are really important, and you're, again, usually the call to action in one simple post, even if you have a big audience, isn't, hey, go buy this thing. It's follow me for more, comment with this, answering a question that you have or maybe pivoting them to a website or a different action that you need them to take, but it's not usually going to be a sell immediately. Format wise, you can do this in an enumerated talking head, meaning you plan a short script of what's a skill that you know that you want to share, or more likely for you if you're trying to market a business brand or movement that is values wise or emotionally connected to the thing that you're trying to sell. How can you break it down as simply as possible in a short video with enumerated tips? I wouldn't do more than five. And then with steps on the screen. So either you are just talking into a camera and you've prepared a little script, otherwise you will go off the cuff and speak too much and go over length. Um, and how can you just simple text on screen, put step one, step two, step three. You don't have to do anything else other than that. I say here bonus points for a visual prop. I think people hear visual prop and think it has to be something super weird and unusual to get someone to stop scrolling. And it's actually not true. It can be as simple as your laptop, as she does here. And she does I think it's like five steps to convert people to followers from a talking head video. This is a norm or narrative post that can be really short and simple. It's one of mine because I wanted to show how easy it was. You probably have, if you're someone who just records short videos of yourself or videos of the things around you in your day-to-day life, I would encourage you to start. It's much easier to just document your life rather than have the hat on constantly of like scanning for content. I had a short video of me smiling facing the beach and my message on it. It's a little hard to read, but it says, having a moment because I'm so grateful for the privilege of being single and child-free, being responsible for only myself has allowed me to take big swings this season. really simple message connected to my messaging, my lifestyle, my audience outcome, my norm or narrative. And it's a really short video, one sentence or two on the screen. It was 6 to 8 seconds, and I paired it with a trending song that made sense. And once, if you are in Instagram, they have an edits app that I highly recommend using. If you are in there, it will automatically give you some options for audio. It'll offer you templates and inspiration for similar content. And you can also sort of search by vibe for matching audio or music. So you spend a lot less time kind of scouring for that. Audience outcome. The idea here is like, I did this and you can too. It's more proof through your personal story rather than an enumerated how-to, although that can be used here as well. And this is a static image carousel with short text on screen. So you could get 5 photos. They don't even necessarily have to connect to the topic that you're talking about. Um, People-centered is good. So if they include you as you build a personal brand, that is better. And then short copy on each screen that tell a story, either of transformation, pain pursuit, payoff, across the board. And this one was a simple, the first slide, I think, is her saying, I'm 35 and I'm in my millennial crash out era, and I've never been happier. And then she goes through why she quit her job, similar themes to the other creator about, being sold this millennial career dream, it not being true, being burnt out, learning how to pivot. Simple, puts a song over it and engaging. And then lastly, what lights you up? This can be a journey POV of a passion project. There's so many other things as this could be. And when I say journey POV, it could be that you don't necessarily have an expertise tied to the thing that you're marketing, but you are trying to build it in real time. So you'll see a lot of content actually with entrepreneurs and new business owners that very vulnerably share their behind the scenes of building a business, an empty warehouse, something that has gone wrong, a problem. You can do it through behind the scenes footage, but an easier, lighter way to do it is just quick B-roll of you actively doing the thing that you love. This is also where you could talk about your business or show some insights of it if you are trying to promote a business. And then you can just stitch a few clips of B-roll together, which again is very easy to do in the Edits app, and put text on the screen, trending text, and sound over it, and that's it. This person is a big creator coach. He just had a huge event in New York for the first time. He has selfie B-roll of him, a few different shots throughout the day, picked a trending song, and put very simple text on the screen, and that's it. It's all a lot easier said than done, but once you get into the rhythm of playing around with edits, again, this is for Instagram, the more you'll build your muscle to do this quite naturally. Okay, so those are the major tips to get from what is your current communication strategy to who's your audience, what's your message, what are my content pillars, and then how do I start to take the leap to post? Some final tips, I mentioned this already, just document your life throughout the day. If you're having a coffee, drinking water, like not doing something that interesting, just having B-roll to be more visually engaging for your posts is helpful. And growing a bank of those is really, it's much easier than having to pre-plan a shoot for yourself, especially if you're just starting out. Find your 3 easiest formats. I would commit to playing out with 3 different ones. Simple B-roll with text, like the one I showed of myself, could be a fun thing to try. Short talking head, where you just pick up your phone and talk to the camera like you're talking on FaceTime. And or a carousel, like whatever seems to work or be the lowest lift for you. I would study content and riff off what performs well. This is very common practice. If you are actively on social media, you likely have creators that you really like. Take a look, see people who are similar than you, take a look at what has performed well for them, and you can borrow ideas, you can borrow formats, you can borrow copy, you can borrow music, as long as you tailor it more to your personal story. And then there's just like a simple check before you post something. If you wouldn't stop and scroll for it, consider redoing it, whether it's your visual hook, your text hook, or considering a new piece altogether. That is a lot. It's a crash course in how to start content creation, but the only way to get better at it, honestly, is to start. There's a lot, so much more to learn, and I'd be happy to help any of you, more deeply one-on-one. You can book a call with me. You can follow me on Instagram and DM me. And I do have an email list where I'll be sharing some hooks, that are sort of tried and true to get people to stop scrolling. That can be a helpful place to start.
And I can hop in and say a quick couple things about us as well. Thanks so much, Daniela, for all of that. I just want to say a thing or two before we maybe have any final questions, or if there aren't questions, we can also watch some of the examples that Daniela talked about. But we also want to stay connected with you all at the Nest, as well as like through our website, as well as through our Instagram or LinkedIn. We will, in our follow-up, we'll give you all of these links as well, so you don't feel like you have to write down these long website names. And I wanted to share with you a little bit more about what we're up to in general at the Nest. So we have a lot of different branding, design, communications, and event production offerings. And so we'd love to stay connected with you all around that as well. And you can sign up for our newsletter and our kind of like our mailing list through as a way to stay connected about our upcoming sessions for foundations and other programming that we may offer down the line. And if because this is all free programming, if you want to support it, then we'll throw our donations link in the chat as well. So that we can keep putting on programming like this for our peers, for our community. And I feel like I had one more thing that I didn't put in my notes, and so it's disappeared. Really, I just wanted to thank both Daniela for sharing all of this super helpful wisdom about how to make great content. If you're not already following Daniela, you should. She has lots of great examples just on her own channels, but also it's really entertaining and fun to see what she's up to and how she's thinking about content. And I want to thank all of you all for taking this time out of your Wednesday afternoon to be a part of today's foundation session. And with that, I will stop and see if we want to come off of sharing screen and just do any final Q&A questions that we can either talk about more here, but also maybe include some thoughts about in our follow-up email. So any questions you all want to throw into the chat or come off mute and share? Yes, thank you all, Crystal, Marisol, for being here. I think I saw a thank you from Erin as well. So yeah, thank you all for being here.
I I have a question for you. And one of the things I put in the chat, one of the things I'm going to walk away with, I never thought about specifically targeting my age group. I mean, and I
Mhm,
know that you're talking about millennials, and I'm not a
mhm,
millennial,
mhm,
but your point was to kind of speak from where you are
mhm,
and use that as the avatar as you named it.
mhm,
So that was really very helpful. And now a question for you.
mhm,
I am not a millennial, but I would love for millennials to be interested in some of what I do, since I can't, some of the things that you suggest wouldn't quite work because it's not who I am. So I know I'm putting you on the spot, but for those of us who are older,
mhm.
how do you recommend that we have conversation with, we connect with millennials?
Yeah, those are great questions. I would say the first to your first point too. One thing that I have learned is if you're struggling to build your audience avatar, thinking about yourself even 3 years ago, and what your struggles were and what you've learned since then, it could be a helpful place to start.
Mhm.
And then second, on how to appeal to millennials, I think there's a lot in the audience outcome bucket. where they actually are looking for lessons. And you, as being older, likely have a lot of lessons and things that you've learned to share. And that would be the space where I would most likely try to engage them. And there actually is a huge opportunity for older creators because there aren't that many people competing for space, but there are more people than we think actively scrolling and looking for people that are relatable to them.
Hmm. Thank you. Thank you. This was great.
Daniela, I would chime in and curious your thoughts about this too. That being that this is my mom and her question, and I know her very well, but I think that this could apply to other people too in terms of um, speaking to a demographic that you're not a part of, that there are also like opportunities for a bridge. Like, do you know people who are like, do you have a lot of neighbors or friends or, you know, like your children or whatever that maybe fit that demographic? And for you as somebody that I know does have a lot of relationships, you being a former teacher, having all these relationships with people who are in the demographic you're interested in, I feel like there's a way for you to still speak from your own perspective about those relationships, about those people that you know personally, that still allows you to build on what Daniela put forward and still be very true to yourself. Yeah, it's just another perspective.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
agree.
That makes sense too.
Cool. Any last questions before we close things out?
Question for you about the IG editing app. What is that, like a separate app or is that within the
It's a
platform?
separate app. It's called
Oh,
Edits.
okay.
Yeah, and they are obviously connected. So as soon as you're done, it does prompt you to like through Instagram, and you don't have to start fresh at Instagram. It'll be like the page right before you post where you have to put in your caption. But it is easier to do a ton of things there. There's space for templates and inspiration, but also just the functionality is pretty intuitive. They have a teleprompter. If you have a script and you can kind of move it to your eye level, so it doesn't seem like you're reading as much. And when they were heavily promoting it, which I think they still are, if you could see that your reel was made in edits, it says a little made in edits, it pushes it further out into the like the algorithm favors it if it has
Uh-huh.
been used through
Uh-huh.
edits
Oh,
rather than just Instagram.
oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is trial reels. If you haven't used them yet, they're a great way to experiment. You can even take a post that you've already done and posted and change the text, try a different song, cut it to one line that you think is the most important line. And before you hit post, it's the same screen where you do your caption. If you scroll down, there's a toggle that says trial. And if you toggle it on and hit post, it won't go to your grid. So people won't see like, hey, you just did three different posts that are the same-ish. It'll be pushed out to different people. And if you even continue to try and riff with more than one, it'll go to different people. So it's a good way for insights to say, oh, that song really worked, or that message really worked, or that format was better for this message. So you can kind of collect the data and analyze.
Mm. I love it. That's super helpful. Thank you.
Mhm.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Daniela. We're really glad to have you all with us. We're really glad to put this together. So grateful to you, Daniela, for your time and your expertise. And hope you all will stay connected with both of us. And we'll be following up with our email and all the links and all the things. And we can even include, yeah, some of the videos that Daniela had queued up for us on Instagram.
Awesome.
With that, we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you for being about a part of Foundations.